plastic, silicon, and nitrogen gas. These are the essential ingredients for progressing in Minecraft's most scientifically accurate mod pack. But the devs accidentally added an extra ingredient to the mod pack: real-life chemistry. And thus, Supersymmetry was born. And then all hell broke loose. But anyways, hi, I'm Dewey, and there's a good chance I have undiagnosed autism. As mentioned in the intro, there are 3 crucial new materials I need to make in order to progress to the new tier of technology, with each tier getting more techno-chemically complex until endgame feels like you're actively defying all conventions of normal science. But that's for later me. The present me needs to automate the ever so humble polyethylene, one of the most basic plastics made by man. But this automation requires energy, and my main power grid is too far away from where I want to automate my precious resources. To combat this issue, I made 2 heat exchangers which pump steam into a steam turbine right next to my automation area. But now that I have accessible power and a viable way to transport it with some superconductors I forgot to show footage for, I can finally begin to make polymethylene. There it is, my polyethylene tower, which ferments some wheat and seed mush into impure ethanol, which is then distilled to extract the ethanol water azeotrope, which is then mixed with some hot sulfuric acid to make ethylene gas, which is then put into a polymerization tank. After the ethylene molecules reenact hands across America for a little bit, they're dumped into this chest for my use. Simple, at least compared to the aluminum line last episode. Ew. After making an MV extruder for easier and cheaper parts, I turned my first bit of silicon dioxide into normal silicon by reacting it with some carbon. More silicon would be needed, of course, so automating the procurement of the chemically iconic SiO2 is of most importance. Quickly explain this line. Cobble is made in the rock crusher, then broken up into gravel, which is then sifted to separate the aggregate into flint shards, which are then macerated to a dust, then centrifuged to somehow turn it from dark black to a milky white. I also realized during this time that wood pulp, which is a byproduct from the plastic line, can be processed into simple carbon and some potassium carbonate, which isn't that important right now. So after doing that, I decided now was a good time to purify the silicon. The process was quite simple. All you need to do is roast some silicon with some chlorine gas to make silicon tetrachloride, which is then 1-to-1 distilled to purify it, then being roasted with some zinc dust to make a high purity dust, and some liquid zinc chloride, which can be fully recycled in electrolyzer for a full refund on zinc and chloride. Now to automate this shit. Done. Now to make the silicon seed for the boules. Done. After a long wait, as well as the crafting of an MV autoclave and a quartz crucible, my silicon boule was made, which is then zone refined to remove any other impurities. Now to cut it up into wafers, which needs ultra pure water, which means I need a molecular sieve. Okay, well that shouldn't be too hard. I need spodumene? How the fuck do you say that? Can I mine that in the overworld? No. Well, how do I get it then? By sorting orthomagmatic rocks, which comes from a mining drill? Okay, so I need to make a mining drill, which looks like this. Yep. Pretty overkill. If you thought something like the electrolytic cell ate up steel, this Goliath needs a whopping 1,442 steel ingots, not to mention the 312 concrete blocks. Oh, bother. Finally, this product of Henry Bessemer's ingenuity mines up this 3x3 deposit area, mining up rocks which can then sorted in an ore sorter to be turned into actually useful, like spodumene, butchering that name so badly. After all of this, I made the molecular sieves so I can finally purify some fucking water. To quickly explain in simple terms, normal water is ion exchanged with a molecular sieve present to make demineralized water, which is then injected with some normal steam to deaerate that water, which means it removes any air inside the water. That is then finally distilled to make the fancy schmancy ultra pure water. This water is then used to cut the boules into wafers, which then has to be soaked in a mixture of hydrochloric and hydrofluoric acids to remove any water left on the wafers, which are then polished with some silicon dioxide slurry to make the first bit of usable wafers, which are going to become a critical element for my future breakthroughs. But that means I need these in large quantities, which means I need to automate all of this, which will tear through my power supply at the moment, needing 4 amps of MV power. So I think it's an appropriate time to upgrade my power infrastructure for the modern era, aka about 5 hours after I made the previously mentioned steam turbine. But the 16 amp MV dynamo hatch needs a lot of gold and silver, because fuck me and my sleep schedule, am I right? And the best way to get gold is by processing raw electrum ore and mercury to extract the gold and silver found inside that ore. Also, fun fact, electrum, for how sci-fi its name sounds, is actually a naturally occurring ore in real life, and whose man-made counterpart is used for Nobel Peace Prize medals. Electrum was also extensively used in ancient times for their coins, for my history nerds out there. But anyways, getting back on track, the raw electrum dust is mixed with mercury to make silver dust and gold amalgam, which is then roasted to split that amalgam into gold and mercury. Now that I have my precious gold, I can finally make my ever so sought after dynamo hatch. Montage time. What do you mean I didn't record it? Anyways, to substitute what would have likely been a really boring montage in hindsight, I'm just gonna explain some circuit components to you lovely people, which are needed regardless for making the dynamo hatches. Firstly, capacitors are used to store electric energy inside a circuit surfaces which are split by some kind of insulator, being polyethylene in this case. Transistors, which need my oh so precious wafers for, are used to either amplify or switch electrical signals. What does that mean? I don't know. I don't know hardware tech very well. These, along with some other components, are used to make operational amplifiers, which amplify voltages in a circuit. I don't know what I'm saying anymore, but here's a diagram of it. Ooh, complicated diagrams. These circuits were used in order to assemble my first batch of miniaturized electronic circuits, which come in batches of 6 compared to the basic circuits 2. Very nice. After that, I made yet another component, the Zener diode. Simply put, Clarence Zener's funny circuit part works to regulate voltages inside a circuit, exploiting something known as the Zener effect, which you can look up on your own. I don't have the time to explain it now. These were needed to make medium voltage regulators, which are needed for that elusive dynamo hatch. Now that I have 64 amps of LV at my disposal, I can finally start automating wafers. What do you mean I forgot to record it? Bro. Anyways, here's the finish line. It's nothing too special. Now that we have wafers automated, I think it's time to get some nitrogen. Why nitrogen? Well, nitrogen is used for making stainless steel to make the alloy stronger and more corrosive resistant, which is the next tier's metal for casings and components. After finally getting my shit together, I made a pressure swing absorber to split the air itself into easy oxygen and nitrogen. How this big block of aluminum works is that the filter inside absorbs some kind of gas inside a gas mixture at a higher pressure, then releases that gas at a lower pressure, easily splitting the gas mixture. Now all I had to do was funnel some air into it, which I easily got from an air collector, and boom, infinite nitrogen and oxygen, if a bit slow at its current speed. That's basically all I wanted to do in this episode. Hope you wonderful people enjoyed, even if it was a bit uneventful, and maybe you found it a bit educational, but who knows with how I explain things. Anyways, this is Dewey, signing off for tonight. Bye guys.